console. Never mind. We're not. Oh, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna move along.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just stepped out of my shower and I walked up to Alice and goes, "Look at that!" I was like, "Oh."
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean.
So the Simone Clipper was one of, I believe, 3 S42Bs that was around at that time. And
No, that's a joke.
I think that I see a paddle next to it actually.
Oh, it's a deep sea.
the area that we've searched so far is we're on line 4. ROV pilots, how many lines or search paths do we have to take?
Rennie might know that.
I do. I don't know if you want to know the answer to it.
There's a lot of lines.
It looks substantial.
We're in the middle 4 of
Is that 21?
20.
20?
Yeah, there's some shorter ones though.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're a fifth of the way through. So we'll be doing this for a while.
Unless we find a target that's compelling enough that we go and take a look.
Like a kayak shape?
Maybe.
You never know. So all the people that we currently have on duty, we have myself. I'm the Science Communication Fellow. We have Ed, our lead video engineer. We have our 2 ROV pilots. We have our navigator. We have Science 1 and 2. And we have also our
Data logger.
logger, Peyton, in the back.
Peyton's
Hello?
back there. We never get to see you, but we know you're there.
Hey.
We feel your presence.
He's in the back of the minivan.
And then we also have joining us over on the chart table is Lonnie.
She actually
No,
moved over
she's
to
Science
Science 2.
Oh, she's Science 2.
Yeah.
Nice.
She's moved up in the world.
Well, we can add that to the list of things that
She
Lonnie's
paid
done.
for the upgrade.
I got a promotion.
Business class.
Well, there's nothing you haven't done, Lonnie, so I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Age brings experience.
Mistakes bring experience.
That's true.
It's just your first attempt at learning whenever you
Yeah,
fail.
yeah.
Yes.
It looked exactly like that.
So the question that goes out about Argus's side scan sonar, what you see, you can't fully see it right now as they reviewed that last target, but this side scan sonar is an Edgetech 4200, and it releases 2 different frequencies. So you are seeing both a shorter, more, we'll say, high definition type of frequency sent out, as well as one that's much larger, and has a view of about, I think we're about 140 meters or so at the, about the longest range.
You can see it on PC1.
C1. Yeah, so about 140 meters or so with the longest range on either side. What you're seeing when you look in the view or the camera for Argus is actually the area directly below Argus, which is not being scanned by the sonar. And that one's not too much larger than ballpark 20 to 30 meters, depending on our elevation off of the seafloor.
Right now we're like 15 meters up.
Okay.
No, we're good for now. They're okay with that. Yeah, yeah. I can, but right.
Don't have to worry about anybody diving down there. What's it? Oh. Yeah, I think so.
Is the science team still in deep discussion?
Deep discussion.
Deep. 3,000 deep.
We're talking about deep kayakers and why they would be on the bottom.
I think that would
Everyone's
probably
pretty
be
excited back here.
my kayaking level of experience. I started on the water, honey. Didn't finish that way. So if you look at your first feed, you can see that same last target that we were able to come across. And that was the one our science team is conferring with each other right now. So we spent about the past day searching, and we've done about 4 passes, and we've got about a fifth of it, our 2 square mile search area. So it's still going to be a few more days in order for us to finish our search area. That is, unless we find something a bit more definitive and change our plans. So last watch we talked about Prime Day. After we got off, did anyone go buy anything?
I don't know if our internet access is good enough for Amazon Prime Day.
I don't know. You never know when you need a 400 gig SanDisk card.
Sci team is done conferring. We're available.
You're available? Wonderful. Well, Doctor, your sister is incredibly excited about the teriyaki she had in Georgia.
She had what?
Teriyaki in Georgia.
She can't. There's no way.
No, she seemed quite disappointed.
Yeah, I would be too. Listen, we have a bunch of people on board from the Seattle area on this leg, including Peyton, who's sitting right next to me. He goes to University of Washington.
Hello.
Lonnie, unfortunately, is not living in Seattle, but we have a bunch of people on board who are from Seattle, and we were talking about the foods that we would eat after a long
I'm
time
from Seattle
aboard.
area.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, how people would want to go eat teriyaki
Yep.
after getting off after a while.
There's a Seattle phenomena of teriyaki chicken that's super unique in Seattle.
And beef.
And it was started by this one gentleman named Mr. Toshi. And in the 60s or 70s, I believe. And there's a bunch of Toshi's teriyakis now. He franchised that a bit. And there's a ton of other competitors. It's not a difficult thing to knock off. And Mr. Toshi was running this franchise and decided he did not like being a businessman. He liked making teriyaki chicken.
Huh.
So he handed off management of that enterprise and opened a very small teriyaki shop in Mill Creek, Washington, about 2 miles from my house.
Huh.
So when I
Cool.
opt to get teriyaki, I get
You're
it
getting
from
it
the
from
guy
the
who
guy.
came up with the idea, yeah.
That's
Huh.
awesome.
Yeah, and he's got the articles hanging up in that place that tell that history of teriyaki in Seattle,
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
There
It
was
is a Seattle phenomenon.
Yeah.
And when we moved, so I'm not a Seattle native. I moved there about 3 or 4 years ago. And we started to frequent some of these places. And when my sister came to visit, we took her there. And it was mind-blowing,
Yeah.
obviously. So
You're making me hungry for
And,
teriyaki.
and so
I know.
maybe the better question isn't what are you going to have as soon as you get home. It's what did you choose to have as your last meal at home before you came here?
boy.
oh, that's a good one.
And I had
man.
Toshi's teriyaki.
Toshi's.
Yeah,
Good one.
I did.
I was gonna make tacos, but my wife convinced us to go out
Go
with
out?
the kids, and we had
Yeah.
a
That's-
burrito.
That's
There you
something
go.
that's incredibly lacking in Seattle is good Mexican food. We haven't been able to
Yeah.
find a place yet.
But we have great Thai food.
That's true.
That is
Yeah.
true.
We have been able to find a good place
Yeah.
for Thai.
What's
And I-
your favorite?
You know what? Of course, I can't pronounce the name, but it's over on Lake City
Well,
Way.
In Seattle, it's one of two things: Thai something or something Thai.
No, yeah, it's Punjabi Thai or something like that. I
Ah,
just
right.
can't pronounce it. I won't even try and do
Right.
it.
Cow pot is the traditional dish.
Hmm.
So we lived in Bangkok for 4 years.
Sawadee krap?
Sawadika. Sabaidiruka.
No,
It's got a lot of international flavor.
right. My owl.
Thai is a tonal language with
Yes.
rising and falling tones, and a word can take on about 4 different meanings depending upon how you say it. So you
Same
have to be
as,
careful.
We were talking to Peyton about that because he understands Mandarin. Do you speak Mandarin as well, Peyton?
Yeah,
But not well,
as
not-
fluently as I would like.
Right.
But yeah,
You-
I speak Mandarin at home
You
with my
can't
parents.
yell at you as fast as your parents do.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think there's, where I live in Georgia, cannot think of any specific teriyaki places.
No, and
Right.
even if you think, it's like I grew up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I will go and have a steak sandwich somewhere.
For
But
sure.
they might put it on the menu as a Philly cheesesteak. I know it's not
Yeah,
Philly
it's not.
cheesesteak.
Yeah.
I don't even pretend. So the same thing with Seattle teriyaki. I can
Imposters.
get chicken rice in Singapore,
Yeah.
but it's not. Yeah.
Well, I'm immediately heading for the Northeast and a Maine lobster.
Ah, there you go. We do have a
Oh,
lot
it's
of New Englanders
summertime.
here as well.
I was in Maine, and I landed back from Maine, I think the day before I flew out. So I was back home for 24 hours, and
Yeah, I did the same thing.
yeah, lobster. I always try to put it down the population when I get up there.
One of our video engineers, a colleague of mine who works on this vessel as well, got married down at Kenna Beach in Oregon. So we went down for that, and came home for a day, and off I went.
Oh, that's nice.
I like to make it a habit of in my travels trying to incorporate shipmates where I can. So my wife and I did a holiday, I think it was last February, to St. John's, Newfoundland to hang out with Mike Hannaford for a while. He and I have sailed together for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And then we went off to Montreal with him as well. And then where else? I just tried to connect with Paulie, our electrician, in Waterford, Ireland, but he was sick when we were bopping by, so we had to settle for going directly to Middleton and the Jameson Distillery. And
I'm
then
sure you're disappointed.
2 years ago, I was in Drogheda, Ireland, with one of our other captains. I got to connect with him, so it's always fun to see shipmates in other settings, and it gives you a global network of friends.
Absolutely.
Give you little tips and experiences.
A lot of couches across the world to
Yeah,
crash
yeah.
on.
We still have 15 meters? I'm just seeing water right now.
Me too.
There we go. I also, I don't think, oh yeah, we have done this before, but recently had opportunity to have a short stay in New Zealand. And so we have a Nautilus live viewer from there. And just made an attempt to say, hey, I'm in your region, but I'm in a different city. I know we're not going to have a chance to connect, but
Yeah.
hey, you know. And also chose what to do specifically in that city based on input that we've had from this viewer here.
Nice.
I went to a museum and learned a ton about the Maori culture. I do like that part of technology and travel, is being able to be connected to people so easily now.
Yeah. Those of you wondering about the round sonar you're seeing, that is Argus's front-facing sonar. So that, along with the bathymetric maps we have from the Okeanos Explorer when they were in the area and they multi-beamed the area, helps us kind of determine what's coming up.
Yeah, that's our terrain avoidance. So if there's a large pinnacle of a rock that might have been missed in the mapping, it's not the terrain coming up, it's just a feature.
Yeah.
Which won't really show up in a bathymetric map or a EM302 survey. So we keep an eye out with that as well. And if we're working upslope, there's a lot more information there than there is now.
For a bit of Pan Am trivia, do you know that Colonel Charles Lindbergh was associated with Pan Am?
Did not.
Didn't he actually help design this aircraft?
I think he did. He was.
Yeah.
I think he was one of the original partners, friends.
I read on a website that they designed it on the back of a napkin.
That would be very architectural. He was tech advisor to Pan Am.
Oh.
I was surprised when you guys were giving some background information that Pan Am survived into the 90s, or at least 1990. I would have guessed it went out of business in the early 80s. Same with TWA. TWA probably lasted longer.
Yeah.
This is going to be target 21.
21.
Target 21.
What I had read is the fuel
meters to
crisis
port.
helped precipitate their downfall.
What was that?
We have one.
Lonnie, did you say the fuel crisis?
Yes, the cost of fuel.
Right. When we were doing fuel rationing and all that. Actually, was that a state-by-state thing, or was that nationwide?
That
And
was
then Megan, what do
before
you-
the time I worried about
What do you
fuel.
think about this one?
I think it was nationwide.
Yeah, even odd, wasn't it?
Even odd to the gas station.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was nationwide.
Yeah.
Dating myself clearly. I'm getting just blank stare up here.
I know of it. I remember looking at the gas station every time we drove by on the way to school and saying, it's going to be crazy when gas is above $1 a gallon.
I worked at a gas station in 77 or 78, maybe 79, when gas went above $1 a gallon for the first time. And some gas stations were able to modify their pumps, and they just used a Sharpie and drew a 1 in front of the price. So it would say 103.
Yeah.
And other stations' pumps weren't able to do that, so the price was the price per half gallon.
Ah.
So it'd be like 54 cents.
Yeah.
And every gas pump in America had to be replaced to add that extra digit.
Huh.
And that was back in the full service days.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were mechanical pumps. You could hear the price click, click, click. Yeah.
So Ed, did you go to the, and forgive me if I butcher it, the Te Papa Museum in Wellington?
No, no, I didn't go down to Wellington.
Ah.
That was my goal, was to get down to Wellington. Oh yeah, no, no, not at all, Moya. But thanks to your great input here, we went to the War Museum. Justin and I did, and spent a day there. Just amazing artifacts from Maori culture, and so informative. And we've had discussions here on the vessel since I came back about almost this global renaissance of the native language in places. And I've seen this in Ireland over the last 30 years, that now Gaelic is on the signs first almost everywhere, and then English. Same thing in the museum. All of the interpretive displays had a sign that was in Maori or the Maori language, and then followed by English later. And so and someone else was telling me they were just in southern England, and there were signs that were in the language that was native there before English. I don't know if it's Old English or what, but yeah, it's really interesting to see this kind of reclamation of cultures, and that allows languages and these cultural traditions to live on. So yeah, that was a fantastic experience and time well spent. That was our first day in New Zealand after the transit from America, and we got in the airport at 6 in the morning. And I love places and culture, and this is also a good method I use to get over jet lag. We went out and we went everywhere, including the museum. We stayed outside for about 13 hours until the sun was well down. Walked about 9 miles, and then got a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I think I was in New Zealand for 3.5, 4 hours, but I saw the airport.
Oh, yeah. My brother and his fiance were just in New Zealand for, I think, 6 weeks or maybe a month, and loved it. Loved the people, loved, when I told him I was going, it was just a transit stop for me, but for a couple days at least, 3 days. He was like, yeah, just get out of Auckland and do anything. I was like, well, that's not really why I'm there. I'm doing some work. And, it's travels. Not fun, but man, I would go back so quickly. And Wellington is where I would really love to go to. Of course, as Moya knows, my fascination with Captain Cook. Yeah, there's a huge draw. And that's about the last place that he's ever been or spent any time that I've not been to yet. So, it's, yeah. That's probably 2 or 3 years away now. We stack up our travel plans, but yeah, for sure. And I would do a lot more museum digging. I'm usually don't have the time on the holiday travel to do spend a lot of time in museum. Yeah. But man, I think there I would. And I think I've talked about this before. There's a fantastic book by Mark Twain called Following the Equator, which he wrote later in life to pay off some debt. And just had an astute, futuristic view of what he was seeing and experiencing. And his description and interpretation of the treatment of the Maori people in New Zealand was just spot on and well ahead of its time. So it's, I'd love to learn more about that.
Nice.
And I'm going to be really nice because we're really focused on modern aviation and not talk anymore about Captain Cook. But thanks so much, Moya, for being an influence over the time that you've been watching Nautilus Live to plant that seed for me to learn more about the culture of the people of New Zealand.
Nav, Rennie, are you on?
Yes.
Did you, I don't know if you heard, but did you hear Michael when he was up here, he said he wanted to go to the northern line next rather than line number 9?
Roger that, yeah. That
Okay.
makes sense. Otherwise, I think it'll take a lot of time to get back down there.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
So, Doctor, is there any post-processing of all this side-scan sonar mapping that happens?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, like we were talking about earlier, what we're seeing here is subject to a lot of wiggle and a lot of stretch. And one of the post-processing things that we're going to try and do is take out some of that or account for some of that and have a relook at some of our targets based on that. But the main post-processing for the sonar is just to relook over all the targets that we've gotten so far and decide whether or not we like them anymore and in what order of priority they are, and see if when we map them against our search area, do we see a sort of debris field, taking out the ones that we do like, taking out the ones that we don't like and keeping the ones that we do like, do we see a pattern emerge? Which is one of the reasons why we're choosing to go to the north instead of at the beginning of our watch, we were told that we were going to the south. But we have seen some interesting things sort of to the northeast, so.
I follow the breadcrumbs.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Megan, do you think with just one more pass, we'll have a pretty good idea of maybe what that kayak was that we saw?
No, I think that it'll take multiple passes. I don't know if we will do multiple passes, but I do think that it'll take more than one pass to get a better idea of what that thing is. But we'll see. Could be wrong.
All right. Brian, do you have any students watching back home?
Yes and no, potentially. I've moved around a lot, working in different schools, and in my new role, I don't actually have a class. I'll be working as an instructional lead teacher, so I'll be working at more at the school level than just in one classroom. And I've met most of the teachers, but not all of them yet.
So you're going to be interfacing more directly with teachers than with students?
Yes.
Yep. Gotcha.
I'll be helping teachers do the awesome things they do even better for students.
Do you think you're going to miss working directly with students?
Oh, that is always a yes.
Aww.
Kids are just outstanding, and it's to be able to see them have those moments and make those connections to what you're trying to teach and see their passions is easily the single most rewarding thing I've done professionally, and it's always something I enjoy. And being able to be in a different role now to help other teachers kind of help make those things happen more regularly for their classrooms is something I'm excited about.
Yeah. Gotcha. Thanks for sharing.
No problem. Are you excited to come up with any of the cool plans you've come up with over the summer and execute them in what appears to be the bat cave that is the makerspace underneath your dorm?
Maybe. I have some projects I want to work on sort of coming back. I have like this big thing I've been trying to like learn how to 3D model and then 3D print it. But I might have bitten off a little more than I can chew because I probably chose the most complicated project to start with in Fusion 360. So maybe not the wisest choice, but it'll be fun.
Start simple and go. Hop on some Tinkercad.
Yeah. I might have to go back and start over a little bit.
Hey, Brian, it'd be interesting if you could take this project back to schools because it certainly involves science, technology, engineering, and math, but it includes exploration and the human element is a tragedy.
Absolutely.
So I think it's so important to think of the people who were aboard and what they were trying to achieve. Captain Edwin Music was called Uncle Ed. He was so well liked and such a pioneer in aviation and Pan Am's chief pilot, and he had 13,200 flying hours and 2,320 in Trans-Pacific Ops and 502 hours in the Sikorsky 42B. These guys were so experienced. They were doing everything correctly as pilots and crew. It's other things took them over. Music had won the Harmon Trophy for the world's outstanding aviator, and he had more flying honors and records than anyone else. His first officer, Cecil Sellers, had a federal transport pilot's license and had 6,000 hours of flying experience, 464 hours in Trans-Pacific Ops.
Wow.
Junior Flight Officer Paul Brunk had nearly 2,000 hours and 125 hours in Trans-Pacific Ops. Nav Officer Frederick McLean had been the Eastern Division navigation instructor from 1935 until 39, and he transferred to the Pacific Division with 524 hours as nav in Trans-Pacific Ops. These guys were really experienced.
Seems like an all-star team.
Yeah, Radio Officer Thomas Finley had 765 hours as radio officer in Transpac service. And, I mean, the endorsement goes on for these guys.
I heard from Russ that Captain Music was one of the very first American pilots, and that, and this might be wrong, but that the U.S. government would not let him go to World War I because he was required to train pilots. He was so valuable to us because he was such a good pilot and had so much experience that we needed him home rather than...
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Flight engineer John Stickrod had an airplane and engineer's mechanics license, and he had 650 hours in this airplane, the N6167-354. It's the assistant flight engineer John Brooks, who was had just transferred to flight duty out of the office. Pacific Division was organized in 1935 with Brooks as chief mechanic, and he was assistant on this trip, but then he was going to become chief flight engineer, and it seems he happened only to be on this crew because he wanted to go back and join his family in Honolulu. So I don't think he was originally part of this crew. So these guys had so much flying experience. They're such experts in their field.
It seems like if you wanted anybody flying, you wanted these guys.
Yeah, it was the star team.
Lonnie, sort of question for you, but what are you hoping that this, once we find the Simone Clipper, what are you hoping that this will mean for the legacy of Ed Music?
I think for the legacy of aviation, not just Ed Music, but Ed Music, all the families involved, and the entire Pan Am family really stays together as a family. They have the Pan Am Museum Foundation and the Pan Am Historical Foundation, and they stayed together as a family, and I think this was a very painful loss for them.
Yeah.
And to bring closure, not just to the families and Ed Music's family, but to Pan Am, will be a wonderful thing, but also a mark in history for solving a cold case. Who isn't interested in a mystery, and who doesn't want to solve it? And when when it stays an open question mark, it's difficult.
Yeah. Thank you, Lonnie.
For a question for our ROV pilots about why our speed is what it is right now, why we're not going a bit faster. Is it because if we go faster, we'll get a lot more interference, or?
It's because Argus is on a 3,000 meter steel cable, and it's also pretty heavy, so we're essentially dragging an anchor behind us. And so in this mode without our main engine on, with our DP, this and the current weather states, this is the speed that we can make. It's about a knot.
Okay. Yeah, Dan, what do you think 3,000 meters of a 6.8 weighs?
I'm marking this one.
What do you think 3,000 meters of a 6.8 cable would weigh, guesstimate?
50 to port
It
side.
weighs, all right, thank you.
About 5,000
This
pounds.
is target number 22.
Good guess.
22.
I'll take it. Your answer is accepted. Thank you.
To port side, you
I
said?
cheated
side
and looked at
50.
the tension meter.
I was gonna say, he said it with such confidence.
LCI 90. Argus is at roughly 4,000, and
So we got 10,000 pounds.
we have roughly
low under.
Yeah, bouncing between 8 and 10.
Yeah.
We were talking about that the other day. We should know that there's a per meter.
I'm all done. Do you want to add a description?
Spec of 6.8 cable. And I was also noodling on what the line tension is set for max pull on this
Oh yeah, well, the traction
winch.
Yeah.
So, like, is it
Sure, could you pull it back up for me?
normally on a Dynacon they set the line tension just enough to lift the system off the deck.
Yeah.
Like, so when you pull it into the docking head, it has enough to latch, and
That's it.
that's it. And then there's a low and a high tension setting on the winch, so when you're deep, you have all the weight of the cable plus the weight of the heavy bits, which usually a TMS. It'll lift it all back up, and then you hit low tension when you get close to the surface, so you can't do any damage with the winch.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just write that down as 2
Correct,
rounded
yeah,
circular
overboarding sheave.
So is that target 21?
Yeah,
That is
so
target 21.
we've talked about that too in the rough
sorry, 22.
numbers I heard.
That
So
was
every
target
time
22.
it makes
Yes.
a bend, that reduces the tension by approximately half. And the setting on the storage winch was just right around a ton, which is typical of a constant tension winch to keep the slack out of the wire.
Bridge nav. We will proceed to the selected target, and then we will hold position there. Yes.
Thanks to those viewers
It's
with
bugging
us.
me now, Ed. I can't remember that number. So we should know it because when we're putting floats on the wire to make a catenary, it's real helpful to know.
Yes. Yeah.
How many floats do I need and where?
Go ahead, bridge. Roger that, yeah. At the selected target, we will hold position. Thank you.
What's that?
I can't hear you. Oh.
Oh, the tether has 2 floats and 1 lead. I think to make a catenary on a 6/8 for some of the other kids, we put 4 floats around 20 meters back, and then
there's a break. Talking about the 6/8, yeah?
yeah,
Yeah, and then there's a break, then there's a group, then another group.
yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about our yellow friend?
Yeah, the kids from University of Southern Mississippi. No, the Canadian lads, they do 2 at 20, and then they start the chain at 50. I think the Jason guys do as well.
Oh, they don't do a break. They do like
don't?
1 a meter. No, you're not on SPL. I am.
They start at 20 and
then just bam, 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 bam.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's 20 because I have a still image from a drone of Jason off of Sekuliak, just like straight out, and it's about 20 meters out, and then put in footballs.
Oh, they keep it all on the surface the whole way? Oh, that sounds painful.
Do they always stay on the surface while they're putting the first football on? Okay. Always, yeah.
So
I always feel for the ship's crew when we like crane on 4 baskets of footballs. And they've never worked with a single vehicle system. They're like, oh, what do you guys use those for? And it's like, well, we don't. You do.
Sebastian has, I see they're all pimped out with a lemon stand now.
Oh, really?
They got a lemon stand and a lemon rack.
Oh. The lemons are the footballs.
Yeah, they hold the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the lemon stand goes at the back, and you put a rope around the wire to hold it tight while you're snapping the float on and off.
But you can step up. Is there a step up?
No.
Because Thompson
right
uses a step up for the crew to get it around, so they don't have to hoist it so high.
Oh,
They're hoisting like here.
Yeah. No, you definitely want it at chest level. If you have it above your head and the wire snaps, it'll bang you in the head.
They have high, what do you call the, bollard? Not bollard.
Oh, yeah, the gunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rail.
Yeah, bollards? Bulwarks?
Yeah.
We have all these maritime archaeologists here. I'm sure we could get. Where's Michael?
Yeah, that's right. They do have a step because it's the rail's high there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good picture on a recent picture of Sebastian on Instagram, the drone picture. Their fancy lemon stand, all their lemons on display.
So do they like roll down? Like they just come at?
Oh no, it's
Oh, so you have to grab them.
It's
over-engineered rack.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason, if you're listening. I'm teasing you. I know the
that's okay.
lead mechanical engineer there is.
Every time we grab something and we barely have it on, we call it a Williams grip. So we've been apologizing to Jason for years.
Get a finger on it.
It's a Williams grip.
Thus proving you're only as good as your last, whatever you want to call it in this industry.
We just saw him somewhere. He was on board, but I can't remember where.
Astoria, probably.
Man, I don't know. Small community. We all move around.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget what their cable is. It's not, I think it's like 19 millimeter. Not sure what the difference is.
Have you seen that cable greaser they have? Oh, you've probably seen them before.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are nice.
We have one on here. In fact, we were talking, we were discussing breaking it out.
Is this our
one of these
deeper
dives?
Yeah.
But this cable's brand new. It's still.
Yeah.
As you can see there in the camera, it's still extruding grease after every time it comes up. I think it's good for another 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an art form to that of just get one bucket for the 3,000 meters. If you put 2 buckets on, you usually find a winch grease on in your bunk and in the galley and everywhere else on the vessel.
Summer, how are you doing up there? I haven't heard you on SPL.
She's not been on SPL.
Summer is now on SPL. And she is carrying this team.
Absolutely.
So she's tired. Her back is sore.
Hanging in there.
Yeah. Let's get some biology. This is exciting.
Yeah. Holothurians.
Now and then.
When I sat down at the laptop, someone had, I think Rebecca had pulled up the genus. It's NA111-R1056-20190715T2334UTC-5, called the headless chickenfish, headless chicken monster, and the Spanish dancer.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. You see those in the Gulf a lot.
Yeah, but swimming sea cucumbers.
Yeah. Spanish dancer is the best description of them.
Yeah, I thought Spanish dancer, I think that has like a couple common, because I've seen some other sea cucumbers or actually a sea slug that's also called the Spanish dancer.
I think. The nudibranch?
Yeah.
Do you scuba dive at all, Peyton?
I don't.
There's great nudibranchs in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I've seen a couple at the Seattle Aquarium.
This just looks to me like it's too weird to. It's weird, but it's too weird to target.
Yeah, I mean everything that we've seen along track, that anything stretched out vertically and anything stretched out horizontally, I'm pretty skeptical about.
Yeah.
Because those are our orientation of error according to our heave and our and our speed.
And even, I mean, I'm not looking for something with a shadow this tall or.
Yeah, that was quite tall.
Yeah, so I didn't want to mark that.
Okay.
Our viewers keep those questions coming in as we continue our expedition. It is just shy of 1:30 p.m. over here in American Samoa. Time flies.
Still learning this watch schedule. I think if I make it to 4, I don't have to be back till 11.
So, Doctor, what inspired your interest in archaeology? What got you hooked?
So when I was a wee lass, going into college, I actually wanted to join the CIA. Ooh. And I wanted to be a super secret spy.
Clandestine.
And I wanted to do all of the things that the spies did in the movies, which were obviously real life. So I became an international business major, and that's pretty much what I was going for. I took Russian. I took all of the courses that you might think that one would need, and I started making Cs because I just wasn't interested in the slightest in marketing or economics or, as it turned out, Russian. And when you take your college courses as an undergrad. Obviously, you have to do some humanities courses, and I took anthropology. And I had never had anything like that. That's not something that you learn in high school that's even an option or anything like that. When I took the anthropology class, it was a really sort of light bulb moment, as silly as that sounds, and everything made sense. Everything made perfect sense. I didn't have to study. I was getting A's. It came so naturally, and I was really passionate and interested in it. And so when I was in my second year, I switched to anthropology. Had to tell my parents about that. That was a discussion. But then I had a really, really great mentor professor, Dr. Irvin Garrison, Dr. G, at University of Georgia. And he was an underwater guy, and I was sort of swayed over to his version of the dark side. And when I went to go do my master's degree, it was in underwater archaeology, but at that point I didn't dive. So it was in shallow water crannog sites in Scotland, which are basically Iron Age houses built out in the middle of lakes or lochs in Scotland. And they were homestead sites, and I was studying meadow finds on homestead sites. So I was a normal archaeologist before all of this airplane stuff as well.
Nice.
I wanted to be a spy as well.
It's a legit field,
cool.
yeah.
And I'm like, who would think I was a spy? You know?
That's what I
You're
thought.
like, we would be the most unsuspecting people.
Well, believe it or not, I mean,
yeah.
I think that Lonnie is one to my right. I think that that's what she did her entire life, but she can't talk about it. But I mean, I wanted to be a spy from the age of like 12 till 22, basically. That was my life path. I had it planned out. I still hope they pick me up. So if the CIA is listening, archaeologists can go anywhere. I can do anything.
Yeah.
Archaeologists for hire by the CIA. I'll do it.
Do you have an echo?
All of a sudden, I won't be here tomorrow.
That's great. That's a valid career. I could see the
I think
appeal
it's a totally
of that.
valid. I even went so far as to apply for the FBI sort of internship when I was about 18, 19. I did not get it.
Right.
They're lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
I read a book pretty recently called The Alice Network. And
yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's all about like the women that were never really completely recognized, but they are the ones that got a lot of intel during World War II. And
because who would suspect them?
Exactly.
Wasn't Julia Child involved in that to some degree? I think she was gathering some intelligence, and her husband did as well.
No, it was a different. So the Alice Network was a group of English women who were actually physically sent to France.
Right.
And they had missions, and they had everything, and they were infiltrating things. Julia Childs would have been, your run-of-the-mill spy.
Yeah, right. She wasn't parachuting in anywhere.
Correct, yeah. Whereas I think that members of the Alice Network actually were, or they were dropped off in the middle of the night.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they did all of the things.
And they'd like pretend to they'd be like waitresses and pretend to not speak German, but they would obviously.
Yeah, listen in on conversations.
Oh man, it's a really good book. And you're just like, man, it just takes some serious courage.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the ship has been stopped here for a couple minutes.
Roger.
We're waiting for Argus to swing towards the end of the line.
Yes.
So Lonnie just informed me that she actually was parachuted into a place before.
Come on.
And I'm trying to get her to tell a story because
of course.
I don't know if you guys know, but Lonnie's life is probably the most interesting that you'll ever hear. Tell him. Tell the story.
Well, Lonnie didn't.
Everybody ask Lonnie.
Hey, I can't actually talk about it, which actually confirms your worst.
Lonnie, didn't you used to say you would go, you wanted to go skydiving, but you couldn't?
No. I wanted to become a pilot, and I couldn't afford it, so I went skydiving, but it was actually for a purpose.
Right.
What?
For a purpose. Nudge, wink, wink.
I was a Russian major in college, and I was fetched during my junior year and told to job hunt like all my friends, but that I actually had a secure job after, and that's about as far as I'll go.
Yeah.
See, that's what I wished had happened to me, but did not happen.
Actually, at some point, with 3 children and living in all these countries, life became way too surrealistic.
Yeah.
My husband and I were a team, and kids would say, "What did you do today?" "Well, we got up and, you know, we went to the office and we sat down at the typewriter." At the time, it became very fake.
Yeah.
So I said I have to anchor this family with something outside.
Wow.
Come in from the cold. And so at age 40, I went back to school to become an architect so that we'd have another thing to talk about in the family and another career. So the kids all would go around in all these countries with their sketchbooks with me, drawing things, and we had a great time with that. And then in architecture school, everybody said, "You're so old. How are you going to have a career starting at 40? And I said, "Well, you just wait. You're going to get married, have kids, you're going to get pulled out of it, and I'll just be starting." So that's,
there you go.
That's kind of what happened. And so I had a fabulous career as an architect, and one of my big projects was the mega ship called the World, where you buy your home aboard the ship
are you
and
kidding?
travel the world without leaving home.
I almost took a position with them.
Well, I was head of design and construction for the World. And
That's a beautiful vessel.
Yeah, lived in Norway for
She's done everything.
5 years.
I know.
That platform that covers the pool is so clever.
Oh, the whole stern of the ship comes down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the sports platform.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great
For
vessel.
sailboats and kayaks and everything else.
Huh.
And so I lived aboard the ship under construction up in Risa, north of Trondheim in Norway, and sailed out with her, and we christened her in 2002, and she's still going strong.
Yeah. Doesn't stop anywhere.
That was 110 homes, all with the same
Those are
construction
beautiful.
deadline.
One of the ones I was in had a grand piano in it, and I think it was just to show off how much space they had.
I know exactly what apartment you were in.
Really?
Yes.
She designed it.
Yeah, I know all the apartments.
Yeah,
In fact, the company Residency said, we're cooperating with the shipyard to build a ship, but we don't know what to do with residents' personal items.
Yeah.
So you're in charge of getting those aboard.
Oh.
And there was no time to do that, and the insurance was incredible. So I used to give the Norwegian crane operator in the shipyard in Risa bottles of scotch.
Yeah.
To say, because I didn't have any money to pay him to work on Sunday to hoist these things like grand pianos up over the balcony. And then I was told if I marred any of the balcony rails, I'd be charged. And if I caused a delay in the ship's construction doing this, it would be $18,000 a week on me.
Wow.
A huge stress job.
The tenders are beautiful as well.
Oh, the tenders were incredible.
Yeah.
Lifeboats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Can we move toward the selected target?
So the vessel that we're talking about is essentially a cruise ship, but they're private residences.
Yeah, and they don't like to be called a cruise ship. The motto is travel the world without leaving home.
Yeah, and they are in port almost every single day and basically follow summer around the world. Not you, summer, but they do like to follow the seasons.
252 days a year in port because these people have already traveled and been everywhere, and they don't want to get off and buy the souvenirs and hop back on the ship. So they want to go into the interior and see friends.
Yep.
And perhaps travel and join the ship somewhere else. All their belongings are aboard. We had a helicopter deck.
Yeah, I was fortunate when they contacted me about a communications officer position. The vessel was on the West Coast, so they had me go to the vessel and tour the vessel, and yeah, very nice. Very nice vessel. Nice work.
Yeah, huge stress job, I have to say.
I'm sure.
All my friends back in architecture school saying, "What are you going to do with your career?"
So did you become a naval architect, or just like you got hired?
That was the craziest thing. They were after me for a couple of years. Well, we were stationed in Oslo, Norway, from 92 to 95, and during that time I worked for a Norwegian architect. And then you guys are going to think I'm totally attention deficit disorder, but When we were in Norway, I also was staff for the Lillehammer Olympics, and then Atlanta Olympics called and said, you got to come here. So I was in Atlanta, and meanwhile...
Who has the Olympics call them?
Company called.
Money.